Hello and welcome to the East Lampeter Township Public Meeting. All participants are now informed that this meeting is being recorded. This meeting is also being offered virtually utilizing Zoom, which is a cloud-based platform for remote video and audio conferencing. The Zoom application is free to the public. The general public is therefore able to join the meeting by connection through the internet or by calling in by phone. The public is also able to observe the meeting on the township's YouTube channel. Please continue to check the Township website calendar for any updates related to these public meetings. Agendas for these public meetings will also be available on the Township's website. Please be reminded that this meeting is being video and audio recorded and will be posted to the Township's YouTube channel for viewing. The meeting will now proceed with the chairman calling the meeting to order and identifying all other members present in the meeting room and those joining the meeting via Zoom. The chairman will then confirm those members joining by Zoom can be heard.
Okay, welcome to the February meeting of the East Lampeter Sewer Authority. And present we have on Zoom, we have Brent Stolzfus and Fred Clark. Can you guys hear us?
I can.
Yes, I can too.
It's not myself, Rick Robinson, Vinny Patel. In the township, we have Ralph Hutchison, Charlie Thomas. We have Matt Seachy, we have Scott Shearer and Ron Lord. And we have and invite you to join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For Treasurer's report.
Sewer Authority checks that total $125 that need paid, and we have a checking account balance as of the end of January in the amount of $6,936.50.
Requisitions.
One requisition, it's number 03-613. This is payable to Desco Design Construction Incorporated for the Stout Run Pump Station Improvement Contract 21- construction. It's their application for payment number 2. The amount is $275,688.52.
For motion to pay the sewer authorities bills and requisitions.
I'll make that motion.
And a motion, we have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Rick, we have one check, David Miller Associates, totals $4,083, and we have a checking account balance of $872,362.
Motion to pay the bills for the Stormwater Authority.
I'll make a motion to pay the bill.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So moved. The old business, very soon, right to capital borrowing here. So. Four, right?
So we have everything in place, run and review the resolution. Just kind of back up a little bit. So I guess when we were here back in January, kind of given the green light to go ahead with the M&T proposal, we went forward with that rate lock. We locked it in the next day or 2 days later. Hutch did a great job. And so that was kind of very expedient to get that. We ended up locking in the rate below the threshold that we had set at that meeting. And I'll go through that briefly. We then met with the township supervisors Monday evening, had ordinance, the guarantee ordinance. That was all approved, I think unanimous vote to move forward with that. So then today, last step in approving the resolution. So just real quick with the numbers, you just go to the first page. But basically, you know, this is kind of the key page. The summary of the loan, $5 million, doing $5 million even. Again, the reason we kept it at that $5 million cap was for return rebate purposes that you've already say you are able to earn more in your interest earnings than on your interest expense. You can keep that as long as you're still spending due diligence and everything else. So that's all locked in that 3.85% rate. Again, this loan is prepayable anytime with no penalty. So if you have extra money you want to pay down, at some point you can do that. No premium or no penalty. If you want to refinance it a couple years down the road, you can do that as well. So you have that flexibility. And then column 4 shows what that debt service is, basically a little under $200,000 for the next 4 years. And then the bigger thing is when your other debt starts to fall off. So now column 5, you have your overall debt is about 1.8 million and changes. Well, basically out 2030, and then it drops down to 2030. So over, again, I think the authority take a lot of prudent action. Your debt portfolio is very good with traditional debt, but basically it goes down, hopefully amortizes 10 years. Allow you, if you need to borrow, you can borrow things like even pay-go projects and borrowing, kind of that's pretty good for the future there. And then the next page is just kind of detailed amortization schedule that reflects the expected pages that we have on that, and then uses. So we're expected to flow if we move resolution today on March 10th. So everything will be filed with the state here in the near term and go through that kind of approval process there. We close on March 10th. You'll have about, getting close to $4,940,000 due to in your accounts at closing, and then the balance will be paid. You see there to the various. Vice versa is just kind of like more backup, and which I think the term sheet with total. Happy to answer any questions, but really this afternoon the important stuff is Rhonda's resolution. But again, happy to answer any numbers you have with any question you have with the numbers or the fees or whatever it may be.
The fact that we're not really affecting the debt service at all, so that not much.
Good rate.
Yeah, we were happy. No question. We'll turn it over to.
The resolution, looks like most of it is the attachments that are actual documents that would be signed at closing. Some of the documents. The key part of the resolution is that it sets the purchase proposal from the bank. It's not just what you do. It also authorizes us to prepare the remaining closing documents that are attached to the resolution. Obviously, we'll fill them in and finalize them as we work with council prior to closing. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
I don't have anything. Fred or Brent, you have any questions? Any questions for Rhonda?
No, I don't.
I don't. Yeah.
And so if you approve this tonight, then we will proceed and file the debt proceedings. As Ralph said, the township approved it Monday. So we will file those probably by the end of this week and get everything ready for closing on March 10th.
Yep, we're looking for a motion and to accept the resolution What's the resolution?
2001. Is that right, Vinny?
Which one?
23-01, is that what we're calling it?
It'd be 2023-0, right?
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve, motion 2023-0.
We have a motion. Do we have a second to approve the resolution?
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Very good.
Thank you, guys.
Sign.
One or two million.
Insane. It's like a mortgage.
It is like a mortgage anymore. Okay. Cedar Acres.
Supposedly the concrete or the contractor started on Monday that we were not aware of. Checking this week to see if I've got a chance to go down and see if the disconnect had started. We got word from the city on Tuesday that they started working down. No follow-up at this point. We did discuss meter installations about the building and everything down there, but that's still up in the air.
Is anyone supposed to let us know that they were gonna?
Yeah.
Who dropped the ball here? I mean,
City contractor, I don't know. They said they contacted Larry, sewer superintendent. I haven't had much time to meet with him, whether they had guys going down there or not, but I'll check with him tomorrow, see if they've got any word.
yeah, hopefully they did what they said they're doing. They're supposed to be doing.
Yes.
Okay, staff will run upgrade.
So the general contractor, they're planning to perform some work on the mixing pump system. We got some additional change field raising. So the next month, they hope to install that. And then kind of as we reported previously, the rest of the majority of the work is on hold until the MCCs come in May. And then at that point, that's when the new electrical equipment gear will start getting installed. And then once that's ready for operation, they can get the pump switched over. We did take action earlier on application for payment number 2 for that project. And for the general contractor, so application.
So,
Correct, yeah. The pumps are received. There's a lot of materials received this month, which is why the AFP was so high. So they're sitting at the contractor's shop. It's in the heated storage area there for the pump. The piping is sitting outside, but that's okay. So that's all they received. Ready for installation.
Okay. Extenders agreement.
So Charlie and I talked with Matt Cream, your solicitor, about the discussions that you had with the gentleman about Strasburg Pike and possible extension of service on Strasburg Pike. Although Matt Cream hasn't personally had a whole lot of experience, really any experience with extenders agreements, he does believe that they are permitted if that would be the preference to go forward in that way. So all the options that we kind of talked about last time with the contractor would still be options for how to pursue this extension. The authority could do it. It could be done privately on behalf of the authority. It could be done with an extenders agreement. Probably a variety of options in between, but if the board is interested in having the system extended, that on Strasburg Pike, it's possible to do it that way. I don't know if since the last meeting, Charlie or Matt have looked at sort of the conceptual method. I'm assuming it would be gravity, but I don't know the elevations out there that well to be able to say for sure that it would be, or what the depth of the end animal is right now. So it's possible that it'd be gravity to a point and then would have to switch over to low pressure. Just don't know at this point what the design would call for. And in terms of thinking about the future, what would be best for the design, to make it possible, again, depending upon the authority's preferences, to extend it even farther in the future, if that would be something to consider. That could affect how the design would come together on this portion of it.
It was the gentleman, Mr. Rummel, that was in was 175 Strasburg Pike that he was talking about, I believe. And I wasn't sure where that was. I know I found it then. Much put. So where's our sewer? It's like if you're heading up Strasburg Pike, right before you get to Millstream goes left, Windy Hill goes right. It's not the last house it's not the house on the corner. It's one before that, a blue house for what it's worth. And so where's our sewer at now, to Charlie or Matt?
You know where the old mill is?
Yeah.
Right there near Mill Creek. Rough guesstimate, maybe 700 feet south of that.
Okay.
So it's a good distance. I think the contractor said it was 1,600, the house was 1,600 feet away from the manhole.
Okay.
I think is why. Don't hold me to that, but I remember him talking about it.
There was another place along there too, didn't he know about or something?
He's mentioned two other places that have trouble now, but nobody's contacted township before that.
Yeah, this is the first one that we've got contacted about. I know there's other systems down there that are in trouble, but no one's reached out and said, I'm done, I need help.
Yeah, the other issues, you're all familiar with. If the authority, does the project, there would typically be, a front foot assessment applied to, all the abutting property owners. They'd be required to connect if they're within 150 feet of the main. If it's an extenders agreement, there'd have to be some determination as to, if there's some portion of the connection fee that future connectors pay to the authority, and then, a portion of that would be returned to the extender, or how all that would work out best.
I think with some of those agreements, there's maybe a 10-year cap that can be established so that, once that extenders agreement's in place and the system's constructed, if they connect in 10 years, there's a cost that goes back to the original installer. But at least my understanding of the way those work, you can say, here's the system that they install. There's this many possible EDUs that could hook on the system. Develop a cost basically per EDU for the connection. So if one person hooks up, they're not paying 50% of that cost. It's whatever that cost per EDU is. I think there's only a 10-year lifespan to that agreement.
So if somebody can hold out 10 years in a day, you know, they don't pay anything.
But I went back and I looked at our files. It looks like we had investigated something roughly 15 years ago.
I agree.
But we have a 14-year retention policy, so I don't have any paperwork.
I can look to see.
So, but I know the system, what we looked at, it's fairly deep down by the middle. And so I know there's probably a good portion here we can hook up by gravity with the gravity system, but I'm just not sure how far that extends. But over the top of the hill, once you start going against grade, there's possibly some houses that would need a little pressure system.
So going up Strasburg Pike further, somehow, if you cross the intersection, past the bed and breakfast, there's some houses there in East Lampeter Township that I believe are along the low pressure system, one's on the right. So now where's, that goes,
That goes to Slassa.
okay.
Goes up, is it? I don't want to say Meadow Ridge. Country Meadows Drive. Yeah, but it's 5 or 6 houses. It's very long. Right.
How many people are we talking that would possibly require?
Did you mention 17 or 18, the gentleman, last time?
He said from the area he was looking at, 175 Strasburg Pike, I think he said there was like 23.
23, okay.
I had marked down one, but just.
I think, you know, within a few, it depends upon when they're within 150 feet. But there are a few of those homes that are set back quite a ways.
Yeah, on the west side. Those houses are pretty close on the east side, they sit back.
So if the township did something, then anybody within, what's 100, what was the distance?
150 feet.
So they have to connect. They don't.
That's
have
what
to
it says in the township's ordinances. If you're within 150, you must connect.
I guess that's the way the ordinance reads, but to me, that doesn't sound real fair. I mean, you know, you got to be talking what, they'd have to buy the pay the tap-in fee, right? Which is that 20, you say 26?
2650.
2650 last time until you get done running into the house. What, Charlie? 6,000-7,000 total, if you're lucky, if you don't hit any rock.
Gravity be a lot cheaper than low pressure, of course. Low pressure, you're probably looking at 12 to 15,000 just for the pumps and panels and tanks and. Yeah, gravity. Some of these contractors out there are all over the place with numbers right now.
Is there any way we can send somebody out there to do some sort of inspection to see whether there's houses along there that are, yeah, have failing systems at all? Or, I mean, I'm with Todd. I mean, you know, you hate to force it on somebody, but if most of the places along there have failing systems, it's just what's best for everyone involved. I mean, I know those people, it's going to cost them money, but otherwise, if they don't have failing systems and it's 175 or, you know, 2 or 3 other places or whatever, you know, maybe it'd be best if, you know, they did their own private extension. At least that's the way I see it, but.
It would, yeah, I understand what you're saying by private extension. It would still have to be an authority main, but they would do it privately themselves.
Right.
If that becomes an authority main, did Solicitor Green give any guidance on now that it's an authority main, even though it's installed privately, that is there a certain time period those other houses within 150 feet have to hook up? Does that ordinance apply?
Well, in my time here, there's been one other similar situation where H.L. Weicker went in on Hartman Station Road, and they extended the main up Hartman Station Road, installed all the laterals to the properties along the way. And the 150-foot requirement was never enforced for those property owners. Other than that one, I don't know of any other installations. The other installations have been done for developments or by the authority. So that one would be probably most similar to this situation.
So are you saying, Hutch, that if that private developer that came in that day, if they were to do the extension, then this extender's agreement can be done? And that if the private homes, whenever their system fails and they want to connect, they would basically reimburse the first fellow, that contractor that was doing the work?
There'd be a formula in the document that would say how much they would pay the extender. I think the township probably has to be in the middle of that transaction somehow to be the one that, collects whatever the fee is and then pays it to the original extender.
But you could probably get it done a little bit less costly than if we were to go out and bid and go through that whole process.
That would, yes, I mean, we don't have to do prevailing wages, there's some advantages to doing it that way.
I think that's what he was looking for that day. He came to our meeting, was to say that if there was something like that could be done, so.
The work that Weicker did on Apartment Station Road, was that private Weicker just doing it, or was that, okay?
Yeah, obviously, they had, the equipment, the manpower, the knowledge of how to do that, so that's.
There's a private extenders agreement here, where they talk a lot about low pressure. Is that something that probably directly drill along portion of it there along the line of overcut excavation? There the topography out there, it generally goes downhill, but there's a portion as well. If that comes in a 40 main, everyone else wants to gone, then they're all getting a grinding call. So just thinking, is that something the authority wants to take its responsibilities on those grinders versus a portion of a gravity system with low pressure? But now that gravity component is probably a higher dollar cost up front initially.
Yeah, from staff's perspective, we prefer to see gravity as much as possible.
We already maintain about 750 to 800 grinder pumps in the township. Just, it's overwhelming. But yeah, gravity as far as you can get would be ideal. I understand you lose grade there going down over the hill, then you are low pressure. But yeah, the wishes would be gravity. And with that cost on the back, I guess there's two components to that tapping. There's transportation and then there's treating. So that's where that formula will come in handy or come in place, how much the extenders agreement takes effect.
Be the 2650 plus.
Plus,
And I guess, at least for this property owner, they're measuring it against the expense of putting in another lot system. If they could even get it in, I kind of got the impression from that gentleman that they were going to have a really hard time fitting it on the property at all. So then you're talking about abandoning the property or something crazy like that. So
Yeah, to answer your question though, Rick, to inspect all the properties down there, I don't know if that would be something our sewage enforcement officer would have to do in an on system.
I guess I'd suggest that, if you want us to try to gather information, that we sort of just do a simple mailing survey or something to ask people, if the main was extended and you had to pay to, connect and do all that, would you want to do that in the next 10 years? And see what kind of response we get.
I think it's worth a try, but I mean, again, I think, a lot of people don't want to ever open up their wallet for,
I mean, we could say, there's a failing system in the neighborhood, we think.
possibility, we're just gonna have to come in here and do it anyhow, but
Yeah, they may already know their system's failing, especially if they're on the creek side and
And
it's
that's-
already running down.
and that's what I recall years ago, somebody here about failing system down there, your property went to the creek.
And if somebody gets word of that and investigations go, then DEP finds out and you got fines coming from there. And
I mean, yeah, I think at least a letter to get started with some of them, property owners, to at least see what kind of response we get. I don't know.
So basically from where the system ends to this property would be the limits of that survey.
It's
Right now, sure.
Okay. All right.
there's only one or two houses that you said maybe to the intersection.
so this blue property is the next to last to Mill Street.
We have to go across that rather large culvert if we go any farther south.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of properties on the other side there.
Not too many. There's like almost like a mobile home there on the corner. And you have, it sits back pretty far on the other side of the road.
From a zoning aspect, just on the southeast side, like Mill Stream and Strasburg Pike, I mean, that's that all zoned agriculture, like there's nothing here that would open that.
Is that the Denlinger farm?
Yeah. Once you get south of the intersection, yeah.
Yeah, because you were looking at future development and
Just if you extend that sewer pipe up there, does that open up like other connections in that corridor?
Well, I mean, the properties along Mill Stream Road are gonna need it at some point.
I'm just thinking like whatever system goes in, you want to make sure that it's compatible with future extension for those other areas.
Okay, step one, we'll do a survey.
I think that's the best, at least a start.
Township SEO might have records on if there are other holding tanks or other items that are repairs that have been made or things like that, just in that area. Yeah, they should.
that with Solicitor Cream, he also brought up treehouse. He was going to contact their solicitor for the final detail on what actually needed to happen yet. To video and cleaning again, or is it video and if it's saved, go back in a year and video it again. So he's going to get with their solicitor to talk to them. So everybody's understanding correctly.
Any other times going through?
They're cut down for 30, the Quick Creek bridge replacement, sewer irrigation. We resolution for your consideration, which authorizes the Public Works Director to sign a utility reimbursement agreement with PennDOT on your behalf. So that allows him for any forms that are needed, and that through URMS. So that is, I there we request your consideration.
Basically, they need signatures off and on so many times, instead of trying to get the authority members, they're just looking to give the public works director the authority to make that signature. They're paying the tab.
You want us to make a proposal to allow that to happen? Is that what you're looking for?
That's,
And that requires a resolution to be
to be able to do that. And I got copies of the resolution here.
Resolution number 2023-2. Okay, looking for a motion to approve resolution number 2023-02, allowing the Public Works Director to sign.
I will make a motion that we approve resolution 2023-02.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say
Aye.
opposed. So moved.
Thank you. Just also, Solicitor Crane is preparing for easement agreements. And township's asking about to discuss those property owners, trying to get those approved for the small areas of easement needed for that project.
Down your paradise.
It's just east of Sauersburg Road, where they were changing that box culvert. We got those two low pressure lines over there.
Yeah.
Kings Acres, I believe.
Any other old business under sanitary sewer? This is under stormwater. New business. Sanitary sewer. City flow monitoring project.
It's sort of old and new. But and we'll follow the flow monitoring project that they had underway down through the Bridgeport area. And we met with them yesterday morning. Yes. Discuss this. There never was a escrow agreement completed for this project like you do for another project, basically because they initially proposed it. We had questions about it. They wanted to go ahead because of weather conditions that they wanted to hit with the project. Then they later on said, well, your thoughts had some merit, so they modified the program based on our input. They're nearing the completion of that monitoring. They're going to have the temporary meters in for another couple of months. I think they said through May, April. And although they haven't done the full analysis yet, preliminarily they've said that the metering indicates that the interceptors down through these areas will not have to be increased in size. That's subject to change once they do the full analysis, but that's what they're saying at this point. So the next phase of this project will be condition assessment, where they cut off the flow, bypass pump, send a camera down, clean them out, send a camera down, inspect them, see if they're in good, bad, terrible condition, and then what needs to happen to replace, rehab, do something in those areas. So that's going to be later this year. I think they said late summer, early fall timeframe. But they want to get the escrow agreement in place. So we suggested that we do the escrow agreement for the metering. And then once we've seen all the reports and everything, we amend that escrow agreement for the conditions. So probably at next month's meeting, you'll see an escrow agreement proposed by the city for the metering aspect of this project. They shared with us a rather large spreadsheet of how they calculated the cost shares of the metering. It seems to make sense, but we're going to have Matt look over it to make sure.
Yeah, the methodology by looking at metering months and everything else in it, Touch said, it seemed to make sense.
The other thing that came out of that discussion regarding metering was that the temporary meters at Susan Avenue and at Bridgeport seem to indicate that, at least to the city, that the flow through those meters isn't being measured properly or completely. There's a problem with the meters is what they're suggesting. The one at Tennyson Avenue, they think is fine, but these other two, they have concerns about, and they want us to do further analysis, figure out if there is a problem, there isn't a problem, how to fix it. So with Matt's help, we'll be looking at those 2 meter locations to figure out what's going on and if any, meter replacement or something needs to change at those 2 metering points.
They have a temporary meter in near where the permanent meter chambers are. And they said to us that their temporary meter was indicating that was recording flows that were roughly 20 to 50% higher than what was being reported by the permanent meter. We want to take a look at that information and also investigate the permanent metering chambers.
We want the metering to be fair and accurate and, pay the appropriate flow charges, so we want to look at that. I guess I got a little irritated, they sort of pushed to say that, well, the agreement says you have to fix these in 90 days. And I pointed out that it's been 14 months since Cedar Acres was identified. So I probably shouldn't have done that, but I did.
Is there any group out there that certifies these meters? And do they have to be certified once a year? Or?
We get ours, I think quarterly recalibrated. We got all the paperwork, we provided all that to them to show that everything's been calibrated. I'm not sure they're certified to be able to make sure the flume's in correctly, or they're calibrating all the readings and all the charts. Look into that to see if they're certified.
20 to 50%, pretty big difference.
They're talking 20 to 30,000 gallons a day difference.
And if something's certified, it should be pretty close to accurate.
The way these permanent meters work, there's a flume that the water goes through. And then there's a device that sits above the flume. And I believe it's a transducer that measures down to the height of the water level, sends a signal down, reflects on the water level, and bounces back up. And measuring that information so it knows that difference and can determine the depth of water there. Well, for that flume to be, so they may just be looking at that certification, maybe looking at that and say, okay, is it reading 6 inches of water, and certifying that that's accurate. But if there's something else that's wrong with the flume, did it become misshapen? Is it not level anymore? That certification may not be reporting that.
These meters actually read just about even from the time they put it in until about the end of June, and then it fell right off the chart. but then it started working its way back up. I think September it got close again, but it's still reading a little low. But something happened to those meters sometime in late June.
And, you know, the city did indicate, they said, they know that there's a difference and there's a allowable error percentage between meters. And they said, hey, you know, I think they gave 12% or so. They said if it was within that range, wouldn't be having this conversation, but because of the difference there, it's why they're pretty.
And this is, I mean, maybe I wasn't paying attention, but this is two different pumps that they're saying is off like that, permanent pumps,
Permanent meter location.
permanent meter locations.
Yes. The one's the Bridgeport location, which is right along the river, just below what used to be the Marine Place there in Bridgeport. And then the other one's at Susan Avenue. Susan Avenue and what is it, Plymouth?
Yeah, where it makes the bend, it's just off to the left-hand side there before it heads down into the easement.
So that's going into the same interceptor that the Tennyson meter upstream of there. You know, it's the same interceptor going down through there, and then Susan Avenue is coming in, and it's metering at that point as well. So we'll do that, and we'll let you know.
Thank you. New business, capital projects.
EFA is reviewing the funding application that, you know, was submitted. The program has gone through and they've made some revisions now after all the applications were submitted to budgets and now dollars are allocated. So previously on the original application that was submitted, the overall request is not changing the amount. However, how dollars are allocated between requested grant funds and what's being used as a match, the program's changed, and they're now saying that they're not willing to fund basically any engineering or inspection costs that should all be used as a match. But then those dollars were put in the grant column. They've now upped the construction dollars of the grant column by a similar amount. So I asked the question and said, okay, if none of this is being used as match, or if this engineering is not being covered by grant, it's all match, could the authority get started on any projects in advance of any sort of award? And they said no, they will not allow it. For it to be used, they said you can get started, but any dollars spent can't be used as matching funds. So they're hoping July is what I've heard this year to have some decisions made. But they had a CFA local share program last year that was supposed to be announced in November. Got pushed to January, and then with the change in administration, it got pushed again because now there's new board members. So I haven't heard when that one may be considered. I don't know if you have it for anything.
March 16th, if they actually meet.
Okay.
I'm not holding my breath.
I've heard from one of my other colleagues that one of his clients got notified that they were going to get something. So they said that some of the legislators were reaching out, just giving them a little heads up. But nothing official.
So the net result of that change is zero.
Correct. But yeah, they're changing how.
Any other new business under sanitary sewer?
One other item, it relates to the city. It's the wastewater treatment plant. There's a special emergency capital improvements escrow agreement amendment. So this is an escrow agreement amendment you guys have basically done each year now. I typically would have done it in September, October of last year, but because of some revised allocations between some of the partners, the city, Upper Laycock, and Lassa, they had some switches there, percentages of capacity changed. This one was delayed a little bit. But this escrow agreement covers, it funds special projects, emergency repairs, replacements, and improvements that are capital in nature needed to keep the wastewater treatment plant operationally functional, and sometimes not major improvements. So your share of this funding is $37,325, which is consistent with previous years.
That's the amendment number 1.
Correct.
Yeah. That's the one in the Didn't disrupt that one.
Did it know we had a meeting?
Yeah. Yeah, an email went out yesterday asking when everybody's board meetings were so they could get it to. I thought our meeting was tomorrow night. This morning.
It's the quickest day ever worked, didn't it?
Response quick.
If it's your pleasure, approve that, and if so, and all the other boards, then it's out, request for requisition.
Could put it off till next month, but guess we'll look for a motion to approve this new escrow agreement for this with the city. Our share being $37,325. Somebody that
Make a motion, we approve the new escrow agreement with the city. Is there a number on that at all?
Amendment number 1.
Amendment number 1.
we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. Any other new business under sanitary sewer? About stormwater, new business, update on the MS4.
I'm happy to report that we've received the Army Corps of Engineers permit and the Lancaster County Conservation District administrative review for the HAC project. So we should be in line to receive the DEP permit in the next week or so. And then we can move forward with putting that project out to bid.
Things are moving along there.
Their design for the Oscars Pet Resort project for that stream bank restoration.
Any other new business under stormwater? Any other business?
I guess maybe ask the question to Fred and Brent. Are you guys either coming to the meeting next month or able to Zoom in? Just making sure we have a forum.
I'll be zooming in next month. That'll be my last, then I'll be back in April.
Brent, you're silent.
That's on mute.
Can you hear me now?
We got you, Fred.
Yes, I'll be zooming in next month meeting as well.
Might be here.
So you know, there's been no public comment.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, you guys.
See you
Have a
next
good
week.
evening. Have a good evening, everyone.
Goodbye.
See you guys.